Right, we're recording, so welcome everybody to the final live session of Regenerative Leadership. Today we're glad to welcome everybody, and of course especially Hannah Benson, who wanted to address you guys. And Hannah, take it away.
Thank you so much, John. John, if you could give me host or screen sharing ability, that would be
Absolutely.
great.
Yep. There you go.
All right, let's see here. Share. All right, perfect. For those of you who are not sure who I am, I'll introduce myself and tell a little bit of my story in just a bit. But very briefly, I am Hannah Benson. I'm a program manager at the UP Center for Executive Education. And I wanted to take a little bit of time today to talk to you about our diploma programs. I know that some of you in the room or watching this recording are likely already in the program, but some of you are not. So it's good information if you'd like to continue forward on this learning journey with the UP Center for Executive Education. And again, I thought I'd start with just a little bit of who I am and why I'm here talking to you about this. A little bit of my story. When I was 12 years old, I traveled for the first time to Venezuela. It was my first trip outside of the United States. And I was very naive in what I was going to encounter and what I was going to experience. And I think I didn't know it at the time, but this trip really kind of ignited a passion in me to work and surround myself in international contexts, both in life and in a professional context. And for me, it really was a turning point. And I think if you looked at my resume, I used to be kind of ashamed about it, but it's very abstract. I have an abstract resume, which means you can't really connect the dots between one position and the next. But I think one of the main elements that really kind of run through the thread of all of the positions that I've held is that I really enjoy building genuine relationships with people, helping them find their purpose, helping them find positive impact, and generally have leave a legacy and leave a mark on this world. So that brings me to our diploma programs, which are exactly this. They help you have positive impact. They help you make positive change in your context. And I think many of you know that the University for Peace itself with master's programs, we talk a lot about climate change and discrimination and inequality and poverty. But I think what the Center for Executive Education courses really want you to do is address these issues, but within your sphere of influence. So make it very practical and make it possible for you to make positive change. So I want to turn it over very quickly to you all in the chat box. You all it's 9 o'clock for me. It's pretty early for you guys, but never too early for a game, right? So I'm gonna have all of you pull your chat box here. I'll just start here. Hello. So that comes up for you. All right. If you're in the diploma program, you might have a leg up here, a little bit of an advantage, but we'll see. And I want you to answer the following. Here we go. How many diploma programs do we have? Go ahead and write in the chat box. If you know the answer or if you don't, take a guess. 2, Cornelia, great. Anyone else want to take a guess? All right, I'll or unsure is probably the answer. So I'm going to get to all of the answers in just a little bit. 5, Andrea, okay, good. All right, let me go to the next question. What we got? How many courses do you need to complete a diploma program? Go for it. 5, all right, Andrea, good. Tyrese, 4, Cornelia, 5. Okay, great. Next question. Is there a requisite course? Is there a required course? Not too sure on this one. All right. No. Okay, perfect. And then the final question, does this course, Regenerative Leadership, count towards a diploma? Yes, Cornelia. All right, perfect. Okay, that's just to get you guys thinking a little bit. And I'm gonna now go through exactly what the diploma programs are all about. Most of you guessed this, or some of you guessed this. We do have 2 diploma programs. Actually, there's a secret answer, number 3. We have a dual diploma program as well. But the 3 are a diploma in social innovation, a global leadership diploma, and then we have a dual diploma program in which you can actually complete both if you'd like to. There are 5 courses within each diploma program that you take within a course of 18 months. although many people complete this 5-course journey with us much sooner than that. There is a requisite course, yes, there is, and it is, regenerative leadership actually is the requisite course for the Global Leadership Diploma. So you are 20% of your way there if this is your first course, or if this is your requisite course for the diploma, you are getting it done. And then there are 4 electives of your choice. So there's 5 courses total, and we really do this by design so that there's only one requisite course, and you can really figure out based on your needs and interests what is right for you, what is right for your learning journey, for your professional goals, and what most interests you in terms of our portfolio of courses. We've also added on new this year, 2021, 3 personalized coaching sessions that really set you up on the right foot. Make sure that your learnings and your courses are actually turning into practical applications. And then of course, this course counts towards your diploma program as well. So you are on your way. Here are the 2 diploma programs, just very briefly in terms of the requisite course and what their names are. The Diploma in Social Innovation sets you up to launch or develop your own social impact business or project. The requisite course here is Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Social Change. And then we have a Global Leadership Diploma that is really set up to help you create and formulate your own leadership plan, whether it's an organizational leadership plan or a personal leadership plan, which you may be working through on this course. With this diploma, you either have regenerative leadership, which is this course, or positive leadership, another leadership course that we run that can also count as a requisite. If you're really into the leadership focus and you want to take both leadership courses, that's absolutely up to you and definitely a possibility. Here are some of the courses that we offer, including regenerative leadership. Obviously, you're in that course now. All of these courses are really meant to be very practical in nature. You will leave with something very much like you're going to with John's course. You will leave with something that you can implement right away within your organization, within your company, within your line of work, and actually leave a mark in some way that's really meaningful to you. We also have courses that run 2 or 3 times. All of these courses run 2 or 3 times a year. So if you miss the next one, you can be sure that there will be one that will be coming very soon after that. And then the other thing that's worth mentioning is that we have online courses, and we are also bringing on-site courses back after the pandemic is kind of on the mend here in Costa Rica, and they are allowing groups of people to come together for in-person events. So we are doing in-person workshops as well. So we kind of run the gamut there. And then what will you leave with after a diploma program, after 5 courses with us? This kind of goes without saying, but obviously the knowledge, tools, skills to create positive impact and have positive impact in this world. We have plenty of success stories from alumni. We've got HR managers who have completely transformed their company culture to prioritize well-being and happiness. We have people who started their own NGOs and nonprofits, people who work in the medical sector and really have used some of these courses to address some of the challenges during the pandemic. So plenty of stories, plenty of things. Cornelia, I know that you were on this journey with us as well and plan to implement some of these things. And I'm actually going to come back to you in just a second and see if you want to say just your little 2 cents on how your diploma program, how the experience has been for you so far. But generally, this is what we're looking at. The global network, I think this cannot be understated. We pull people in from all over the world. And oftentimes these relationships that you build within the courses themselves extend way beyond that into personal friendships, into mentorships. We've actually even had 2 people meet in a course and then actually got married. So you never know how these things can turn out, but really just a global network of like-minded professionals, people who also care about having positive impact on the world and are fervent in their purpose in making sure that that happens. And then finally, here's the diploma that you would receive at the end of a 5-course journey with us. It says a lot. It says a lot about who you are as a person, your character, your values. If you look at the University for Peace logo, it has the United Nations logo embedded within it. So again, not only it separates you from the other professionals in your sector, you put it on LinkedIn, you put it on your resume, but it speaks to who you are. It speaks to who you are as a person. Show of hands, or maybe just in the chat box, either one, who's in the diploma program right now? I can see everybody. I know Cornelius, okay, great. Andrea, great. Excellent. So a few of you, fantastic. Cornelia, I know you from previous courses. Do you mind just saying maybe what's one, or in this journey for you, what's one highlight that you've taken away so far?
The best highlight is that I understand this is a way of living. it changes your life forever and the way you relate to anyone in your life.
Excellent. Thank you again. Speaking to the resonance that it has with your character, with your purpose, and also I think the other people that surround you in this journey, whether they're on the diploma program as well or they're just participants in the class, I think the people that you meet are also, it's just a very powerful experience overall. Thank you, Cornelia. Finally, what's next? I'll kind of stop screen sharing here because I think I just want to see all of your faces or those who I can see. If any of you are interested in having the conversation or learning more about this journey, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll put my contact information in the chat box as well. And then speak to your peers, speak to Andrea, speak to Cornelia. If you want any insight onto what the program is and how it's going for them, the invitation is there to speak to them as well. So thank you so much, John, for letting me take 10 minutes of the session today. It's been fantastic. Everyone, wonderful being here. You're almost done with regenerative leadership and have a wonderful webinar today.
Thanks, Hannah. Take care. See you
Thank you.
soon. Bye. All right, everybody. Hopefully we can get some more people back on camera if possible. And in the meantime, I wanted to kick off, as you know, this is the last live session. So just want to make sure that you've all been participating in the forum discussions. Some of your posts have been amazing. So thank you for jumping in and really sharing some of those reflections, those insights with everybody else, and also reading and responding to each other, which is one of the best ways of actually connecting with each other and building your network. So that's great to hear and to see. So since this is the last session, we're going to dive into the project a little more in depth in the process. As I told you, I asked you to come in with how much of the process that you've already scoped out and try to work on so that you can actually end this week with a good idea of what's missing. Most of you have written quite a lot about what you want to do, but as I've been mentioning, yeah, this is important, but the work we do here is really how will you get that done? So the first thing I wanted to do is just to put up a Padlet that you can work on just to share with each other what big questions do you still have about the project that you are struggling with, maybe having to do with your leadership style or process. Maybe it has to do with not seeing the connections to the environmental or social issues or the economic issues or the well-being issues. And so I've put the link to the Padlet here in the chat for everybody to click on. Let me share my screen so we can actually see what it is that you might have to share. Just to, before we put you into pairs, I'd like to pair you up with one another so that you can actually share some of this verbally and then we can discuss it. In the meantime, as we go in that direction, is there anything that you'd like to bring up now as a question or a concern or a challenge about completing the project? So I see Andrea is driving, so clearly she's not going to be able to put anything up on screen. Andrea, is there anything that you're struggling with in terms of the project that you'd like to share?
Yes, sorry about that, John. Right. I am having a little challenge in putting, because my focus is on healthcare, and I feel like it is more geared towards business. The program is more geared toward business enterprises, and then in the healthcare, I have been trying to wrap my head around the process to align it with healthcare, the healthcare ministry that I'm in, because it is not a private sector healthcare service, it's a public sector meeting run by the government, and I have added some challenges or limitations, so to speak. So I'm really having a little challenge with that, but
We lost her. Oh, you froze, Andrea.
I honestly like to try to figure things out.
we lost that last piece.
Oh,
Is
sorry,
there
sorry. Right. No, I said I always try to figure it out for myself first before I put it out
right?
out into the public or sphere or something. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay, I'm not sure that with that amount of information, I can answer I can answer this. We might need to work a little more on this. Maybe when we get into the groups, you can discuss it with your partner a little further and then bring it back to the main discussion. But yes, there is. I think there are several aspects of this that could be very interesting indeed. But we need to get into that in a little more depth. But let me open it up to anybody else. Let me just. Has anybody written anything on the Padlet? Somebody's writing.
John,
Okay.
could you repeat what you said? If anybody did what?
Right. What challenges or problems or difficulties are you having with the leadership process? I put that on screen and also shared the link so you can write there on your own. Okay. Um, Most people have issues with actually incorporating the triple bottom line or the triple top line. They can see the social impact piece easily, or the environmentalists or environmentalists, or some of the economics. But it's quite common for people not to be able to see, well, if I scale up my technology project, I have no idea what the environmental considerations need to be to avoid increasing my ecological footprint or my company's ecological footprint. And there are considerations that need to be brought in. But if you're doing an education program or you're trying to alleviate poverty or disease or violence, quite often it's very difficult to consider the environment, the natural environment, because problems tend to be so urgent that people just can't seem to consider that important enough at this time for us to put into place um, considerations of on preservation of the natural environment or the water or energy or whatever it is, because we are trying to resolve very urgent problems. So again, this is where the short-term thinking comes into play, and it is something that we need to consider in one way or another. So on screen, we have this regarding the triple helix way of developing. I still have doubts on how the leadership develops and there's a typo there. I'm not sure what translaping means. I don't know who wrote that. Now, was
Would
that
be
you,
me,
Cornelia?
and I'm not sure about it's translating when you have like a two photographs and you put one and you have like a landscape and you have several photographs and you yeah,
Overlapping?
overlapping.
Overlapping.
Thank you.
Okay. Great adaptation.
But that's the word in Spanish, and I was trying to I think it's translapping, but I wasn't sure.
Now, overlapping works, and that's why we have that image of the Venn diagram with the circles, where you
Yes.
have the areas. So you have the natural environment, the social, and the economic. When you bring them together, that sweet spot in the middle where they all overlap, that's sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yes.
So if you have social and economic, you can, which is what often happens, you can ignore the social and economic, you ignore the environment, and that's where the environment gets damaged. Or you can overlap social and environment, but if you ignore the economic, then you're not going to make life prosperous. You're going to, okay, we can save the environment, we can save people, but we're all going to be poor. And so until you get all three together, working together, it becomes very difficult to really see long term how we can create, following the triple top line, community that is prosperous and also healthy for this generation and future generations and for all species. And that's the short-sightedness that we have, where sometimes we're so focused on our own little problem that we cannot see the rest. This is why I'm asking you, please make sure that even if you can't do too much with regard to one of these aspects, that you try to do your best. in describing it when you design the project, that you do consider, and as you go into the future, that you don't forget that if you're going to create a product or a service or an education program, all of these ideas or projects will consume resources, and those resources come from somewhere. If you need more energy, that energy comes from somewhere. So there is an environmental connection to any project that becomes successful. It increases its impact. Hopefully, it increases the benefits of that impact, or that impact is beneficial. But if we don't consider the negative the potential impacts that are negative, you will create something that once again damages the natural, the social, or the economic environment for people and for all living things. Does that make sense?
Yes, but regarding this, like in the project, I am already in a project, and I'm reaching this point that there's different leaders, one from the environmental and others, for government, and we all have like these different discourses, and how you get there. And to make it, like a multiplying effect with the rest, and then where does my leadership starts or where does it lands? Since I'm from the academic sector and like in a very technical part, so it's like you want to include the rest, but then you have lots to learn there. And you have to be aware of where do you start or where do you end, because there are some compromises that are from the government. Some compromises are from the private sector. Some compromises belong to the academy. But as well, you have to work together all at once. So sometimes it's just like, I'm very confused of where is my position and how you make it work.
Right. This is, and I responded to your wonderful post this morning about how we generate discourse. And that goes back to quadrant 3 in the framework about generative conversation or generative dialogue. It's not about you defending a position, either in business or the nonprofit or the community. It's about facilitating the conversation with all those players so that you can figure out what is it that we all have in common. What we all have in common is the need to be able to create organizations that can go into the future and benefit everybody and everything. And if business does not understand that and is still not part of that conversation, they're still stuck in the traditional conventional thinking, which is only about profit. And if the nonprofit is only about its own social mission and not generating prosperity and saving the natural environment, they are not part of that generative conversation either. They're defending a mission, not redesigning that bigger mission, not identifying the bigger mission. Nonprofits need money, but they need to learn how to talk to businesses in such a way that they become partners, not adversaries. They need to be able to talk about, well, if you are part of my work as a nonprofit, you are going to be better positioned in the community and in the market. You're going to be more respected as a bank, for example, or a corporation, if you support, not by giving charity to my nonprofit, but by becoming a partner, where your people and our people work together. We create a new organization, even, and where you bring in different sectors, these sectors you're mentioning, into that conversation. So your job is not to get confused, is to learn how to facilitate a conversation where you don't uh, only respond to the needs or the interests of one group, but you facilitate or promote the interests of everybody in order to make sure that we can identify what is the common interest of everybody. That's your job as a leader who facilitates that bigger picture, that bigger conversation. And if that conversation is not possible with any of these groups, they should not be part of the initial conversation. Because if not, they're going to boycott your conversation. Go ahead, Andrea. You wanted to jump in?
Thank you.
Thank you, John. You said something that just brought a clearer picture of what it is that I'm supposed to do or I can engage in. I like the fact that you said we're not here to really change it, but to invite the conversation. If especially given the fact that I have so many limitations based on governmental policies, then it really does make it clearer that I should invite them into the conversation for them to see the picture of what I'm trying to, or the vision, what I'm trying to accomplish.
Right.
Yeah, so that really does make a clearer picture.
Right. This is very important. Many of you have actually shared quite a lot about what you want to do, what the project's all about. Very few have actually got into the design process. What conversation are you going to have, with whom, and how are you going to do it so that they can come into the conversation and really let go of their egos and their logos. This whole idea of, can we have that conversation where we can look at everything from a fresh perspective? And this is not easy. This is a real challenge for regenerative leaders, for any kind of transformative leader or positive leader. How can we get beyond what we think we want or need for myself or my group in order to have that bigger conversation? Which, if we don't have that conversation, we will never design something that breaks down those silos, that allows us to come together as that larger body of people, community, business, nonprofit organization, and really have that generative conversation about what is it that is really important at this time, and what can we do together that will ensure that my business, it continues to be profitable, but obviously protects people and the environment. How does the NGO fulfill its mission while protecting the environment and also generating income? So from whatever aspect is, businesses can help nonprofits make money. And nonprofits can help businesses do the right things for the right reasons. So all of these are really shared values. But as Andrew was saying, now I understand a little better what I need to do. You don't need to tell anybody anything. You need to invite them into a bigger conversation. So as Andrew was saying, if you do have that vision, and if you don't, you need to develop it. What is the vision that you are bringing that can actually stimulate the kind of conversation will help everybody leave their self-interest behind and have the kind of conversation we need to have as a global society and then as a local community. And Roland, you glad to see you. I hope your son's okay. And
Yes,
go
he
ahead.
is. I'm still dealing with the insurance, but he's all right.
All right. So what would you like to say?
In our breakout room last session, what I suggested to Cornelia, and even Andrea could try that, is, as you rightly said, don't have the bigger conversations. What I did for my projects, I have smaller conversations. So I invite the particular stakeholder into a conversation and we discuss everything surrounding the project. And we look at how that person could add value, not monetarily, but add value to what we are doing. When we have all these small conversations, we then would now filter all the information and look at the bigger conversation we wish to have. In that way, when we have to engage the Ministry of Education, our corporate social response, corporate sponsor, the schools, the students themselves, we have already had those small conversations and they've all had an avenue to give their feedback or their thoughts, as well as we can now build the relationship into where we're going. And that's one of the reasons, one of the projects I have been doing. Last year, I celebrated 14 years of doing that project because of those conversations, and it built the trust between the parties involved that they would go to that limit to be engaged, have positive feedback that would actually improve the project, but as you said, provide for each and every one to make either profits or have a great image, their CSR image, okay?
Right, great. So as you go thinking through think about actually very concrete things. For example, are you going to meet with people physically in person in a physical space, or are you going to have a virtual meeting? And how will you invite them to the meeting, and what will you actually use to propose as the purpose of that meeting? And who will you be reaching out to first? This is the process. Very concrete. What are the small steps you need to take? Have you had a conversation with your core team first about those people you want as part of the team that will actually accompany the process before you go to the external stakeholders? So, do you have your change agents with you? Have you all shared the vision? Have you all designed that initial process? Do you have that roadmap? This is what I want to see in the write-up of the project. How are you going to do this? Step one, step two, step three. So again, a lot of you have taken up a lot of space already describing some amazing things that you want to do, but very few have actually described how. And this is key. This is the key to making this work. As several of you already pointed out, is I don't know how to get this started. And that's exactly what I want you to be able to resolve by the end of, in 2 weeks' time when you submit the final draft of the project, if you need another 2 weeks, in order to say, this is how I will go about it, or I would go about it, or I am going about it. If you have not done anything yet, I don't require you to actually have done anything. I do want to see you using all of these leadership frameworks and the tools and the sort of, the maps that we looked at, the concept maps, just to make sure that you are going through the process in such a way that you will avoid falling into the trap of having a conversation with somebody too early, where they take over. And you will find some powerful people out there who are going to have a very narrow mind, a very narrow focus, narrow set of interests. We're going to find it rather hard to sort of sit back and say, oh, hey, Raul, come and tell me about your project. I'd really like to know more, rather than, well, what's in it for me? And as soon as that happens, the dialogue does not happen. You need to be able to, how will you address somebody who has very little interest in being open about something else other than their self-interest? How will you address that? And Raul put something to that effect in the chat. Is that correct? Right. So Raul mentions power brokers. Right. People in power are sometimes the last person you should be inviting to a conversation. You might want to reach out to their subordinates first, to test the waters, to see where you are. If you can identify what the power broker is really interested in, and you can associate what they're interested in to your goal, your vision, your project, and show them how your project will benefit their interest, then you have a conversation that's possible. Even if it's only about a narrow focus for the moment, but then you can break it up and open it up to a bigger conversation. But if the conversation doesn't happen at all, because you have not prepared yourself to go and talk to that powerful person with an idea that will help him or her sort of say, oh, okay, hang on, there's more here, that some things that I haven't thought about. Let's talk about it. That's when things get interesting. And you need to know who you're talking to and how to approach them. Does that make sense, Raul? Do you
Yes, it
have an
does.
example of a
Certainly.
power broker that you don't know how to approach? Do you have somebody you can think of?
Yes, certainly, because this is I would say a fairly new conversation around regenerative leadership, at least for me. It's not one that I hear in the public domain in my space. And I have broached the topic, for example, of impact and social entrepreneurship before. And I've seen where persons attempt to bully themselves into taking an idea and running with it, So, that's really where, so I'm happy for that, that input that you made in terms of how to go about doing it.
So do you have a concrete example of somebody, or without naming names, of somebody who you would find it difficult to talk to about, regeneration or what you're thinking of?
Yeah, I've attempted to treat with chambers of commerce,
Okay.
right? Local chambers of commerce. And you've gotten like a pushback, you know, oh, we don't have time, we're not interested, now is not a good time, call me next month. But then you begin to see them do things that are very similar to what you shared, you know? So you learn from those experiences too, but then you still want to connect with persons who have influence. So, the approach you shared was very helpful.
So, can anybody think how Raw might approach a Chamber of Commerce, which is made up of normally chambers of commerce have a general common interest? So, in this
Yes.
particular case, what is the major mission of that Chamber of Commerce?
Well, this particular Chamber of Commerce, it's a general one that that covers the entire country in this case. It's a large chamber, all right?
All right.
And most of them are, I would say, medium to large and export focus. And those are the kind of ones that have a very heavy carbon footprint, and they speak to the issue of corporate social responsibility, but not in name, but not in passion and in real, but they don't mind capturing something that is the trend of the day because it gives them political or whatever mileage or marketing mileage or branding mileage, So that's where the conversation is a little challenging sometimes because they may just use you to further an agenda and then drop it when it's no longer important.
Nice. So, do you know individual members of that Chamber of Commerce?
Yes, I do. Yes, yeah.
And are any of them like-minded and people who would advocate for your project with the chamber?
None comes to mind immediately, but it's certainly something I would think about some more. Yeah.
Well, this is the research we all have to do. When you're going to approach a difficult body, a dangerous body such as the Chamber of Commerce, so if the main agenda of the individuals in the Chamber of Commerce is to further their own economic interests and to cover up any negative impacts they may have on the local or larger society, economically, socially, or environmentally, those people are the ones you want to avoid having that first conversation with. And certainly you don't want to go and speak to them in front of everybody with a naive proposal, because obviously they're not going to accept anything you share because it's not going to meet their interests. So it's this idea of having conversations that underground, the undercover conversations with the people who might have a concern, particularly younger people, who might have a concern about their future with regard to the interest that they're supporting at this time, and may not have any ideas how to transform their organization in order for it to become a better organization, environmentally, socially, and economically. And they need to have that conversation, but they may be unable or afraid to have that conversation within their own organization. And they may be trapped in their organization because they don't have what it takes to leave the organization, go somewhere else.
Yes.
And so they may be victims of their own inability to become independently financially independent, and therefore need somebody to help translate some of their concerns into something that could become part of that conversation. Does that make sense?
Yes, actually what came to mind, just as we have like target customers, I'm thinking one of the things I can do is to approach the person that I want to speak with as a target, like a customer, and delineate or put up some criteria of the person. What is the criteria that this person should meet? The person that I want to have the conversation with, and begin to look for persons with that criteria. So this is what I'm thinking might help.
Yep. Yep. Well, this is exactly it. Your change agents are the people who are thinking very much like you. So going back to this idea of the overlapping that Cornelia brought up, you need to have people whose thinking overlaps with yours as much as possible. The people with whom there is no overlap, don't talk to them yet. They may be people you might have to push over the edge because there's no other alternative now. Either you come with us or you die. I mean, some people will resist till the bitter end, changing their way of thinking, their philosophy, their values, until it becomes so urgent or so important that there is no other alternative. So don't go to them now. Wait for that. Leave them out as much as you can and for as long as you can. Create that core team of people who will go out and do the same thing. You need to become like, like the pandemic. You need to go out and infect people with the right things so they go scaling up your power without everybody outside who's not going to defend you or support you without them knowing for as long as possible. You have to be
Yes,
very strategic as well.
yes,
Because
yes,
if what you're proposing is radical, and people will see that as a threat, then they will resist and they will do everything they can to shut you down. So it's very important for you to be able to generate as much support for your project as possible before you approach people with a lot of power, with
yes,
whom you have not had the conversation, whom you don't know if you can trust. Now, you can't just not trust them. At some point, you will have to approach them and say, look, this is going to happen for my generation, for the next generation, and 3 generations down the road. And as I mentioned last week, there's quite a strong movement now around the world to bring in young people, teenagers and early 20s, onto the boards of organizations, companies, chambers of commerce, to have them share their perspective about now and the future. And that's a very powerful way of actually creating that conversation where you can't just say, shut up, no, vote, and you can get the votes and shut that project down. At some point, if you need, I don't know if the Chamber of Commerce works on a democratic voting system. If they do, then you need to have 51%
yes,
people on board before you put a project to the vote,
yes.
right? So
Yes, it's
these are things to
interesting
think through.
in the self-assessment, you did bring up the skill set around understanding the politics and the power brokers. I do recall that now. Yes.
So, I don't know. We don't have too many people on camera, and I don't know if you can be on camera. If you can, please get on camera, because if we're going to work in pairs, I'd like you really to be able to see each other. Um, if you can't, just let me know, and we can continue here with a general discussion, unless you'd like to work with somebody else. And I'll open that up to how do you feel about it? What would you like to do?
I wanted to
Cornelia,
just, sorry,
go
someone
ahead.
is talking. Oh, okay.
Go
I
ahead,
just wanted,
Simon, and then Cornelia.
sure. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to add to a possible solution for Roll, and Roll and I work on
Absolutely.
projects together. So it will be for the larger group as well. The pen is mightier than the sword. And I think writing allows us to build credibility and to also share these stories. And when we write publicly, whether it's on our social media platforms or articles in the papers, I think it's an avenue for like-minded people to know where we are, we're in this space, and it could help them to find us because we may not know how to find them. So I think that's one of the things. And for this type of change, I remember considering Majora's TEDx talk, and she had a lot of evidence-based, experience-based stuff that she was able to share, which implies that we need to nurture these relationships. Like Lana said, she's here in this space for 14 plus years, and we need to nurture it. So a whole year in advance, we could decide, okay, COP27, our voice must be heard, but it means that every month we must be doing something that builds up our visibility. So by the time we're on the doorstep of COP27, when we rest down that article or reach out to someone, they're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this person has a footprint, to use a pun. This person has a footprint in this space, and it could help gain some attention.
Okay. So this is a great point. And we all can do things to build that kind of momentum and our presence so that when Raw goes to the Chamber of Commerce, he's not an unknown entity. They know where he's coming from. and that he has his people. And so he's not an isolated individual with a crazy idea. It's something that's already on the go. It's already working towards something. And that is also important. And just an example, and then I'll let Cornelia talk. One of the things I'm beginning to do here, can you see this? Or let me just, I think, yeah, hang on, that's my video. So those of you in Costa Rica or Guatemala who know about the monarch butterfly, one of the things that we beginning to do here is to create corridors for the monarch butterfly. These are the seeds of the milkweed flower, which is the only flower where they can lay their eggs. And of course, because of deforestation, the monarch butterfly is disappearing, the same as bees. And so there's a whole movement to actually plant milkweed flowers to encourage, to create these corridors, because monarch butterflies actually migrate every year from the northeast of the United States, where I am in Canada, all the way down to Central America every year. And if they don't have the breeding grounds, they're going to die out, and we are going to die if they die. So everybody can get involved in different ways in actually looking at global perspectives and projects and local and have an impact. And it's the small impacts of every individual coming together and sharing and doing this through the social media and writing and putting yourself out there in different ways that things can actually happen in a positive way, which is one of the things that, of course, and I keep coming back to Greta Thunberg in COP26, where Greta Thunberg has nothing positive to say about COP26, and she's wrong. It's not the best, but things are happening based on these great big meetings about finishing up with coal, stopping no longer funding or financing coal or fossil fuels. There are things that will happen, but it's a very difficult environment. I mean, like as Roll is seeing with the power brokers, it's not just them, it's everybody behind them that lobbies and the huge chambers of commerce and corporations that really block the possibility of having a regenerative conversation around the bigger issues. So everything that we can do to undermine the resistance is important. Cornelia, you wanted to say something.
Thank you, John. Yes, I wanted to say that, this is all like so strategic, and I just love the video of Majola Carter, and it's kind of happening to me, and talking about what Roll was saying, and that's true. You need the other people around you to speak for you, because sometimes you cannot be part of your own merchandising, because you're the judge and the person that's doing it. So you need others to talk about you, but then you have to do, in my experience, two things: work, really hard, like in this pilot you're doing, or your project, and the next one, prepare, because when the chamber calls you to talk to you because somebody else recommended to talk, that they need to have this conversation with your organization, you have to be prepared for what you're going to say. You have to be aware of what their interest, their mission, ambition. You have to study them, because the moment will come and you don't know, because you give this to the universe, and you never know when the energy is going to come back, but it's going to come back. So it's like you have to be prepared for everyone, and you have to have like a different discourse. It's not the same thing, so it happened to me. I had to be like in board, like a high level meeting with the, the ministers and everything. And, just have to learn really quickly, what to say, and, even how to dress, the colors you need to use, everything, because you just by being first in presence or in virtually, the first thing they're going to see is your face, or what you're wearing. And that says a lot. That goes before you even pronounce a word. And that, all that is very important. Thank you.
Absolutely. And in terms of power brokers, they listen to power. So if Roll is somebody who's a humble citizen as an individual, it's very different if it is Mr. Rolex, he is involved in this and that and the other, and so sometimes you need to speak to power from a position of power, and that sometimes is the only way that they will listen. So again, it's very strategic. Hi, Camila, great to see you. So, would you like to share something?
Sorry. Oh my God, there's so
Yeah.
much happening. No, I'm just listening to the conversation. I'm sorry, I was
Right.
late again. My week has been crazy. Sorry.
That's all right. Now, so this is very important because the project asks you to tell me to describe your process, right? So this is what we're getting into the weeds here. This is important. Forget about what you want to do, because as soon as you start thinking about everything you want to do, it gets complicated. The model of regenerative leadership and generative dialogue is not complicated. And what I'm asking you to do is something that will become your model, your approach, your system, your method. So that sort of sense of Simone increasing her presence, her public presence or visibility, in order to become more credible with regard to her projects or her vision, her mission, her passion. That's important. So that's part of your process. So say so, write it up, yeah, and say, be very concrete, because generative dialogue might sound very sort of theoretical, but in fact, the question is, all right, what is the first thing you're going to talk to, getting back to Raw, when you see that very powerful person that you know you need to have that conversation, is ready, what is the first thing you're going to say to them? And anybody come up with, what are you going to say? Good morning. Then what do you say? Because everything is dependent on how you introduce yourself to that person. If they don't know you, you don't know them, as to the different directions that conversation is going to go, right? So option A, you get shut down, you leave, you lost everything, you got nothing. Option B, they pretended to listen to you because they're actually respecting the fact that you're coming from a position of power. They have no interest in engaging with you at all, but they're giving you the time of day, and you had a polite conversation. You remember the 4 quadrants with the fields of conversation? Option C, they said, hey, yeah, maybe we have something in common. So what is the question that you're going to ask them, or what are you going to share with them that's going to get them to listen to you? That is very concrete. The opposite is also true. What are you not going to share with them that is going to shut them down? And how do you know? So you need to think this through, because these are the challenges we all come up with when we go out there. And one of the things that I found in my research into leaders of sustainability is that they develop this quality of fearlessness, of courage, because they've identified something that's bigger than them. What is that bigger than you that allows you, gives you the courage to actually go out there and speak your truth? How does it resonate with your purpose in such a way that you're willing to take the risk of going and speaking to that power broker or to that corporate manager or to that leader, or somebody that you're a little bit wary of or a little afraid of for whatever reason, when you know that what you're saying is so important that you cannot any longer keep it just to yourself? How do you do that? That's regenerative. That has the potential to be transformative. Otherwise, you're just going and asking for favors. That doesn't work with powerful people. They might give you some money, but then they'll forget about you and just want you to go away. They're not going to get involved. Regeneration is about getting people involved and engaged in something that connects to their purpose, so that you together identify a shared purpose. So how does Roll do that? I have no idea, because he knows these people. He will need to find out how, as you were saying, to do the research into who they are, what makes them tick, and how do I turn them on to something that's bigger than them, that they can get excited about and become part of actively, that they want to be a part of that, they want to be associated with you? How do you use the laws of attraction, or the secret, if you've read all of that work? How do you create such a magnetism in yourself that people come to you even without you asking them? They want to be close to you. How did Gandhi do it? It wasn't by going and telling people stuff and shouting at them. He actually did something entirely different. So there you have the Gandhi model versus the Greta Thunberg model. Are you going to be angry and desperate and critical, or are you going to invite people? Again, each of us has our own personalities, which again is part of the whole thing, the whole package. Our egos are encapsulated within this personality, and we need to be able to cultivate that as well, so that it's your style, not anybody else's. Nobody needs to be Gandhi nor Greta. We need to be ourselves. We need to be authentic. And that's not easy sometimes, particularly when we're scared to death about confronting somebody rather than engaging somebody. And knowing and developing the confidence, and that's that article about action confidence that I sent you, about actually having the courage that you know that this is too important for you to be afraid, if that makes sense. All right, since we don't seem to be going into a meeting, into the groups, can I propose a little exercise to see if we can explore this concept a little further? Andrew, are you still driving? Andrea, are you there? Uh-oh. Kariz, are you there? Or Valon and Sharmila, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. You're all sitting in
I'm
a
here.
place. Okay, you're all sitting down. You're not doing anything like moving around.
Correct. Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. So why don't let's do this little exercise that I usually do when I present the regenerative leadership framework, where if you just want to pay attention, sit up straight and close your eyes. If you trust me, I can't touch you. I can't do anything with you. So if you want, just close your eyes, sit up straight, and breathe deeply. Breathe in. Just breathe in, relax. Just allow this present moment, which is never going to be repeated ever again. Remember, this is our last live session as well. So this is absolutely true. This is a unique moment where if we can come together just for a few minutes and just breathe in the fact that we're together, nobody else around, no interruptions, just relax, sit up straight, put your feet on the floor, and just allow the moment to sink in. So we're experiencing at the moment now something that goes beyond that transconceptual dynamics into this broader sense of who we are, where we are in this unique moment, wherever we are in the world, in these very different places. And so as you sit there and you just breathe and relax, project yourself to the last moments of your life. So think about the end of your life, the moment that you're about to pass over. And you're surrounded by your family, you're surrounded by friends, you're surrounded by colleagues who are here to actually send you off, to wish you goodbye. And of course, as people gather at the end of somebody's life, people talk about you. And wherever you are, there in this last moment of your life, just think about and listen to what are people saying about you as they remember who you've been, what you've done in your life, what you are leaving behind. Remember, in the framework, this is what we call our legacy. What is it that at the end of your life, people remember you for? And what are they saying about it? Are they saying great things about your work, about who you were, about your relationships, about whatever it is they're saying? Is it all good? Are there other things that they say that might be less good? and less positive? And what might those be? So just let that conversation sort of percolate, sort of drift through your mind about what you're hearing about people, what you're hearing people saying about you at that last moment, where of course everything is complete, so there's nothing else you can do at this time. So whatever you've done, that's it. That is your legacy. So think about that. Just breathe that in. And so go collecting those conversations, those comments, and bring them back to where we are right now at this moment, sitting wherever we are. And those things that people were saying about you, just think about them and bring that older version of you back to now. So sitting on your shoulder, what would be one, two, or three things that your older self would actually bring back and say, hey, maybe there are a few things you might think about doing differently as from now or tomorrow. And what could those things be in order to build that legacy that you want to leave behind? What is it that you would like to have done better that people were talking about? And what are the things that you've done that have been magnificent, that have been fantastic? People remember you for, and they say, well, I'm going to strengthen that even more. So just think about a few of those things that pieces of advice that you'd give yourself now about how to go about things, including the project and any other project or the work that you do. So think about that for a second. All right, and now so breathe. Forgive yourself for any things that you have not done so well. Uh, appreciate and enjoy and be grateful for the fact that you can do this kind of work. And just take note of those things that you're going to be doing better as from tomorrow or as from right away. Does that make sense? Comments? You don't have to share any private things, but any thoughts about the value of the exercise? Did it help at all? Did it provide? Yeah, go ahead, Camila.
Yeah, I personally really loved the exercise because, as of being a 22-year-old in the world that we're living today can be very stressful and very anxious driven. And I've taken other classes on futures thinking and thinking about like, what I want to build brings so much anxiety of
Right.
what like I am gonna graduate next semester. Like, what's next? I want to go to grad school, but where? What do I want to study? Like, that's gonna define my life, but not really. So it's good to think about. I've really appreciated that we thought about like what we want to achieve as the end goal and what can I do now, and especially thinking about things that I already heard people saying about me. That's like, you should live a little bit more. Just don't worry so much. Like you're 20, go live your life, go enjoy the outside. You're healthy, just go live. And then at the same time, I'm so worried about climate change that I can't, that I don't allow myself to enjoy those things. So that's what this exercise brought me, that I still have so much to go on in my life, and that I can definitely just do it while worrying about other things, but just prioritizing myself. So that was a big takeaway for me.
Well, that's great. The fact that we've included positive leadership and global happiness, and we look at the Global Happiness Index as important aspects of the diploma program, the curriculum as an academic focus is precisely because, and also the idea of going from the sort of the Greta tone to the positive tone of the regenerative leader? How do we invite and welcome people to be optimistic and hopeful despite the challenge we have? It's not easy. And so reminding ourselves that we have so much to be grateful for, and I'm very grateful for being able to teach this class and to have you on board, and to have these conversations. These are unique experiences that are very valuable indeed because they help shape my confidence as well. That I'm not just a crazy lunatic talking in a vacuum, right? That there are things that we're saying that make sense to people, spiritually, emotionally, not just intellectually. And let me, before I talk anymore, Andrea, you had some thoughts?
Hi, good morning again. And I do apologize for not giving my full attention. I parked and I'm in between sessions different. So sorry about that, colleagues. It's not a disrespect to you or anything. But when you said, John, that we're to close our eyes and trust you, I smiled to myself because of where I am, and be closing my eyes, I'll be left in the open, not knowing what is happening around me. And then I still had to do it to trust you in a sense. And that sort of resonated with me in a sense, because I thought to myself, I really have issues with trusting like that.
Mm.
Yeah, so it sort of made me think back on it. And also when you said that you're at the end of your life and what would people say about you, I felt that way when I was ill with the COVID-19, because
Okay.
I was very ill and I was fighting not to be hospitalized. So I became ill, and thank God for my mom who assisted and brought me back, And I thought about it myself. I said, if I should go now, what would my family think of me? What would my work colleagues think? Have I done my purpose? And I was questioning myself and looking back and to see what are the things that I wanted to do and missed, or I should have done and didn't do it purposely or incidentally. It brought back some memory, and I sort of look into myself to see where I can change and where I should change, where it should. And one of the other things is that I'm sort of OCD-ish, right? So I'm sort of a perfectionist in a sense. And I was saying, will people remember me for that I don't like to see things out of place. So I'm always fixing things. And then I come off to the kids as being what we say in Jamaica, miserable. Will they be focusing on that? And then I said, when I got better, and I said, can I go through life without not wanting? Because I'll be passing a picture or a painting on the wall and it's slightly tilted, and I will fix it, even if it's not my environment. So I was saying, can I go through? And I was testing myself, and John, I can't do it. I'm still fixing things. I'm still trying to get things aligned, perfect. And I know there is nothing that is absolutely perfect, but it's the way I am. Is it a bad thing? Should I be trying to change this part of me, being as old as I am? I'm not going to tell you the number, but should I be trying to change at this time? What can I do to make it even better? If I found anything good. And I said, but I know that I have maintained my standard, and I'm known to be somebody with integrity. And that's one thing that I hope that I will leave if I should go from here. My integrity and character. Thank you.
Okay, so this whole notion of reorganizing your priorities, of identifying what is really important, what is truly important in a life or death situation such as the one you mentioned with a grave illness, which brings all of these associations with it. How do you actually see yourself there? And that's a very powerful event. I mean, that's a very powerful experience. And I'm sure we've all been through traumatic or difficult experiences where some of those things that are less profound or more superficial and that affect the people around us in not such positive ways, well, it's a great moment to actually prioritize. Well, what is important truly, and what is the real legacy? And the happier we are, the happier people around us will be, and the more impact we will have. I believe that. And that, I think, is an important thing to consider as well as part of your regenerative leadership process. Can you bring joy and happiness to your process? And how do you do that? Particularly if you're afraid, you can't do that from fear. You can only do that from love. So Roll has to learn how to love that power broker he's scared to death of, as we all do. Those people we don't want to approach because they're prickly, they're difficult. And we know that it's very difficult to engage them because we have to, it's almost like hitting the bullseye on a target in order to get their attention. If you don't hit them right there, it's just not going to happen. We're not going to get them to listen. And so therefore, sometimes we postpone. And again, procrastination becomes one of those things where we put off decisions because of fear. And it's time for us. There is no more time. At some point, we need to take the plunge and do something about it. But anyway, Roland, you wanted to say something.
Yes, John.
Go ahead.
So for me, the exercise was great. Andrea and Camilla, I agree, it was fantastic. For me, looking like myself in that context of dying and what would people be saying, it would more be that she was always willing to give up of her time to listen or just be there, because I'm that type of person. And I'm not just saying that. Last week we had a discussion on our board, and one of the things that came up was that one of the young ladies who work for the company, she's ill right now, and everyone was like, they were telling me that they were very appreciative of the fact that with my schedule and with everything I do, even though I have a broken ankle right now, I still took time out to get over to her house, make sure she was okay, call her, and and just keep in touch with her. And that's how I am. That's me. So I think that's one of the things that most people would probably say about Avalon. She's always willing to give up her time to be there, right? In the context of something I would have done that I probably need to change. And when I did that, the action plan, my friend Rory actually helped me with that. And the one thing he identified and I can relate to is that I'm a workaholic. I work, I would work. My whole being is work. I would bring home work. I would get up in the night and complete projects and whatever. And I recognize with the broken ankle, it has been so frustrating for me to sit still. But probably I got the broken ankle because I needed to reflect on, I need me time. I need to spend more time seeing about me, more time thinking about my next move, because Andrea, I'm 53. I don't even look 53. And I spend barely any time really on me time. So I found my passion in life kind of late, what I really wanted to do. And I just went into it, and that's it. That's just it. My passion is everything in what I do with my projects. But I recognize in following that passion, I have taken away looking at me and being a healthier me sometimes. I know. I let a lot of the demands of work and the people I associate with, people I would help, take up a lot of my being. My family take up a lot of my being, and I realize I don't really have that little niche that is called Avalon or Alana, and I need to get back there. Okay.
That's an excellent insight, and Camilla's put something in the chat for you, a link for you to take a look at. We'll get to you in a second. Cornelia.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say that I have a story about this being happy and, going around smiling. I had like a difficult meeting. One person from the private sector was really irritated. And I just came in and he came up to me and he said, why are you always smiling? Why is it? And then you have to have the correct answer, because they're irritated, and you need to assign, that comes from him, doesn't come from me. But still, there was an opportunity, an opener for a conversation. And it's really interesting how you can interact every time, and how a smile just like that can open a regenerative conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point. And when people just can't see the smile and ignore it, they will just not engage. And that maybe is a good thing too. It saves you a lot of effort. Camila?
Yes, I just wanted to reply to Lana because I used to consider myself, well, I still recognize that I am a workaholic, but I used to be proud of that because I was so productive and I did so much, you know. And then we had this class at university this semester where we had to watch this TV show called The Chair to kind of like get to know what is the graduate school environment and really learn kind of what is academia. And we were asked which character we resonated the most. And I said that I resonated the most with the main character because she used to put work in front of everything else. And my professor, she's very honest. And she was like, we pride ourselves to being workaholics, but that's not something that we should be proud of because we're not. When you're proud to be a workaholic, then you're disconsidering other things in your life. And then she introduced me to the Instagram page that I put it in the chat. That's called the Nap Ministry. That it's basically talking about the importance of taking naps and setting boundaries and saying, no, I am not going to work in the weekend. I am going to turn my phone off, and that's okay. That doesn't mean like the person that I'm working with, they're not going to die. That if they wait until Monday to hear my response, I need my me time. And and we always talk about like this need, especially after the pandemic, of this grind culture. And that might be a little advocacy, but especially for women in the workplace, like we're always thinking that we have to do more because we have to show that we're good enough, because we're not recognized enough in workspaces, unfortunately, because of the gender gap and all of that other situation that I don't know if that's the right place to talk about it. But like there is this idea that being the grind culture is cool, and like we're doing so much and we're so important, but at the same time we're putting ourselves behind and ourselves in second place. So yeah, just take a look at the Nap Ministry. They say really cool stuff. And it's okay to take naps. It's okay to take time off, and that's something that I'm still learning. But yeah, I just wanted to share that.
I think many of us are still learning about that. I have a little thing for you there, but Roel wanted to say something.
Yes, it's actually something I wanted to raise in the previous discussion we were having around the project and the areas of the regenerative leadership framework. And it's a bit of a personal one, right? And maybe I can direct it to you, John, right? Because as I thought about the issue of regenerative leadership, and I thought about what individuals just shared, starting with Lana, the whole question of how do I regenerate as a leader myself? You understand? And given the challenge of what we are all involved in, and so my question really had to do with how do you do it, John? In terms of finding that space to connect with like minds, in times of rejuvenating, regenerating our own selves, and this is a question that I had.
Well, I'll do my best. It actually connects to what Camilo was talking about. I actually did a training session for 3M in Costa Rica last month, about work-life balance. 3M is very, excuse me, as you know, 3M is a very large multinational corporation, and because of the pandemic, it's actually given the opportunity for employees to choose either to go back to work at the office or to remain at home working. So it's an opportunity for people to choose to be 100% telecommuting rather than going to the office. The problem with that is that people have now blurred the lines between work and life. And so now people are answering emails at 11 o'clock at night, or they're finishing projects, and uh, there's no clear rules of the game for some organizations in terms of where does work end and life begin. So because 9 to 5 no longer operates, it no longer exists with email and text and projects, which you all do online and then submit. And so this boundary between what does my supervisor think of me if I take a nap? Can I take a nap and not, have a problem? Because it's during the workday and I should be in the office. And in the evening, if I got an email from my supervisor, do I answer it? Or do I politely tell him or her to, bug off till tomorrow? What are the expected? So the new normal, which has not yet become the better normal, is still a very complicated space. So within our organizations, we need to establish some new rules and some new procedures about when does work finish and my life begin, and do we have some clear boundaries? Because the stress that has been generated around that difficulty is enormous, because there are expectations that people are available 24 hours a day to do stuff. Or we believe that other people believe, like our supervisors and our bosses, that we are available to them 24 hours a day. And that's not part of the contract. But unless somebody actually steps up and takes the initiative and says, I think we need to talk about this, we need to have a conversation, a regenerative conversation about what it means to be a worker today and a human being in this very diffuse environment, it's going to continue to be very difficult to actually create that balance. And so we do need to recover that balance, and it needs to be explicit. It can't be assumed because everything's changed. So that's one answer in terms of the generality. In terms of my personal life, well, I'm also a musician, so I work with my son-in-law, and we record. I compose and we record, and that's part of it. And also meditation is, and we live in the woods. We moved from Florida to Massachusetts to get away from the plastic and the very condensed social community that is very not focused on regeneration, very much a consumer society. Whereas here we have much more space mentally, physically, and spiritually to be able to do the gardening and to plant a butterfly garden and to do composting and to connect with the people who are like-minded. So that's part of that, my personal regeneration. And that goes back to something I put in. Richard Boyatzis, if you're not familiar with him, he worked with Daniel Goleman in the development of emotional intelligence. And he wrote a wonderful book where he actually brought up, if you remember my cycle, my regressive cycle and the evolutionary cycle. So he talks about the cycle of renewal or the cycle of sacrifice. And what Camilo is talking about was the cycle of sacrifice. Leaders, when they don't know how to stop the cycle of sacrifice, they can't step away and renew themselves. In the end, they burn out. So in the end, they're no use to themselves or to use to anybody else. So taking a nap is not only a good thing, it's essential. Or whatever version of the nap, whatever it is that is, go walk in nature, play with your dog, or talk to somebody you love, or have a cup of coffee with somebody and have a conversation, or watch a good movie, or read a good book, or play an instrument, or whatever it is that brings you back to you into that sense of self where you are complete, where you're not thinking about the past and the future, you're actually in the present and the now. One of the biggest challenges for us today is to stop all the electronics and to be able to just sit and breathe and be in the present here and now. So meditation mindfulness, any of these practices, if you can do everything you do mindfully, so that you are aware of everything that is happening at this present moment and appreciate the fact that you're doing it, can also bring that sense of peace or regeneration that an app can do. So it depends on what you need, and it is important, the fact that you recognize it, and that you can stop to smell the flowers every day for a few minutes. And if you need to, that's what the vision setting exercise was in week 2, which is voluntary. What are your bad habits? What good habits can you identify and practice them for 21 days in order to replace the bad habits? So procrastination. Well, I'm going to set myself an agenda every morning and I do the 5 things that I need to do rather than the 1,500 things that many of those I don't need to do. What are the essential things that I must do? Or I will take time to breathe and be mindful. Or I will make sure that I take 15 minutes and have a nap every day. Or whatever it is. In order to come back to you, to the whole person, not just the top, left brain there, trying to fire on all cylinders and solve all the problems and turn them into a spreadsheet, which doesn't work. So I don't know if that answers the question. It has to be personal.
Thank
It's
you
about
very much.
you. Yeah? So anyway, that's it. We're getting to the end of the course as well as the end of the live session. So are there any questions left before we go? Any other comments? Any other thoughts? Anything you'd like to share before you let you go? Remember, you can schedule a call with me at any time to go over the project if you want to. If you haven't sent in, bye, Cornelia.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, John, you certainly
Yeah.
will be hearing more from me. I've been in the area of consulting and training for over 20 years. So I've been exposed to quite a lot of leadership frameworks, so I've worked with the Covey, Franklin Covey,
Sure.
and 7 Habits. I've worked with John Maxwell. I've been exposed to John Maxwell's work, quite a lot. And there was always something holding me back in terms of really taking these things and really being an advocate. But what you shared on regenerative leadership has really resonated with me as something that could be a life work, because I think that it's relevant, it's pertinent, it's timely, it's what we need now. So I really enjoyed the program and look forward to committing to some more study in the area and really beginning to understand, because I know right now we just really on the surface, really beginning to understand it and of course apply it personally so that I can be an example of it as well as be an advocate. So thank you very much.
On the contrary, thank you, Ron. And Camila, Camila. I don't really do LinkedIn. I've got a LinkedIn account, but it's one of those things that, it's like Facebook. It's and Instagram. It's just I can't really find the time or the interest to interact that way. It's one of the things about social media, which I think I may have mentioned the idea that we've created these thousands of superficial relationships rather than having a few deep relationships. And so if you want to connect with me, absolutely, we'll schedule a meeting, have a conversation. But I do find that social media doesn't give me what I want or what I need very often. So that's nothing to say. There's nothing to say about you. It's just about these platforms that they don't really fill me spiritually. Anyway, we gotta go. Thank you all for being such a wonderful group, and I do hope that we can continue to be in touch and reach out at any time. Okay.
John, what is the
Stop the
actual
recording.
deadline?